Welcome to the topic Combined Framework in Shift. Shift introduced a combined framework for to support asynchronous programming. The asynchronous programming model is the publisher subscriber model. The publisher publishes the values, the changes over the time, and subscriber receives the value. So combine defines the contract for the publisher and subscriber, and both must adhere to this contract. The contract defined through protocol publisher. So publisher has to declare the type of the value that publishes to the subscriber, and also must declare the type of value and that emits when there is an error in publishing the values. So one more key function in the publisher is a subscriber, which actually emits the values to the subscriber. The contract of subscriber defined by the protocol subscriber. So subscriber has to declare the type of the values it is going to receive, and then has to declare the type of the value, and then these two associated types must be matched with the publisher associated type. So when the publisher, so the subscriber has got three key method, that is receive subscription and receive values publishers are emitted by the publisher, and receive the completion. The receive subscription method will be called by the publisher on the success of the subscription, and receive input called by the publisher to emits the values to the subscriber, and receive completion sends when the emission is completed. So when subscriber subscribes to the publisher and it calls that subscriber the key function in the publisher subscribe, it receives the instance of the subscriber, and it actually passes to the subject, which actually generates and emits the values to the subscriber. And here, so the subject is actually emits the values to the subscriber through that key methods which is received through the subscriber instance. And operators is to modify the type of the value or to transform to other publisher, and to do some modifying operations on the emitted value before emitting to the subscriber. And so combined framework provides certain operators. We can make use of those operators to modify the data, and in the process of modifying the data, and so might need to transform that value type or transform to the another publisher. So the operators will make use of do that operations on the data, and it emits to the subscriber. So unified the combined framework is that defines a unified declarative API for processing over time. So this unified API and define some asynchronous interfaces which to the foundation type. So the foundation type expose their functionality to the combine. So these are some basic foundation types which expose their functionality to the combine framework, and that is the notification center to routing the notification to the combined subscriber, and timers, and so define the timer publishers to publish the elements periodically by using the timer, and key value, the shift key value observing also expose that functionality with the combine. So and combine, we using combine, and we can do the asynchronous, develop the async app with the asynchronous code. Let's see that how that let's see that how this notification center and timers and key value observing and some asynchronous publisher like future, so how it is expose this functionality to the combined publisher. Let's see with them some examples. So this is the notification center. The notification center is the on the event, and it posts the notification, so all subscribers of that notification will receives that. And here it is that there is a notification file downloaded. So I want to notify the notification center to notify the subscribers that when the file downloaded is completed, when it is file downloaded is completed. So we have to declare this notification and as extension of notification name, so that when the task is completed we can post this message, post that notification. And so it posts the notification, and that notification contains the notification name and the sender. And here before combine, we use the observers to receive the notifications. That is when notification center posts that notification, and this uh, this method will be called. So in combine, it that is exposed to publisher, and we can the notification center, and on the default instance we call the publisher for that notification name, so that all subscriber receives that notification. So one more best example for this notification center is text field. To receive the notifications of text field events, so when user enters the data on the text field, on that event it posts the notification, and we can subscribe to that notification, so that we receives that text field notification. So that is as this piece of code does that is the notification. Here I subscribed publisher, that publisher, for that we need to define provide that notification for that publisher, and that is text did change notification, and at the object, so on which UI element it is, in which UI text field, and when user enters we would like to receive that data to the subscribers. So this is the event. On that event, notification center posts that event and notification and name, and that the sender is here, that object username, and that object is UI text field object, and we get the text, and that will be sent to the subscribers. And debounce is on a particular interval it waits for it emits the values in the interval of 1 second. At 1 second, whichever the latest value will be emitted to the subscribers. So here when user stops typing for 1 second, and it emits the values, and that receives that values in as a text. The maps that object to the text, and then maps transform that from the object to the text, and that text will be received by the subscribers. So this is about notification center, how it exposes that functionality to the combined framework. So another foundation type, and that is URLSession. Also, it exposed that functionality to combine, and that is URLSession data task publisher. Through data task publisher and choosing try map, it transform and sends the HTTP response, and then decode to JSON decoder, and it maps to the model, and that model will be received by the subscriber. And one more, this is the same as that. One more is the key value observing publisher. And key value observing publisher, it observes the user info object for the changes to the any property in that object. So we define that user info class, and whichever the properties to be observed, and that need to be defined with the object dynamic to that variable, so that property, whenever there is a change to the property, and it sends to that subscribers observers of that user info. So this is exposed to the combined framework, and that instead of observers, it sends to the subscribers. So this is the user info class, that object of user info class to be observed, and then when there is change in last login property, we can subscribe to that last login property change, and that through this is the timer, and this is the time. So this is the object of user info, and that has to be annotated with the object C, and that object to be observed. And it exposed this functionality through the publisher, and on that instance of user info, we can subscribe to that publisher, and we can subscribe to that property which is interested in, and that property we need to provide the key path of that. So whenever there is a change, and it published that property, and that will be printed here. And this is the object which is to be observed, and it exposed to the publisher, and which property we need to be notified when there is a change, and the property name need to be provided, and then the sync key is another sync is to another way to subscribe to the publisher with the completion and receive value closures. And subscriber has got the key methods which will be called by the publisher when it is subscribed with the sync, and it calls the closure supplied when the receive when the public emission is completed, when the value is emitted, and these clauses will be executed. So when user info last login, when I assign the date to it and it publish the value, so subscriber receives that date. So one more is timer publisher. The timer publisher also export that functionality to the combined framework, and in the interval of certain time, and then the callback methods will be executed. So that timer this is this this piece of code is to publish the time in the interval of 1 second, and it emits that notification, and then the map it sends that current date, and that will be assigned to the property in the profile model. So profile model, the profile model has got that variable last updated. It can be assigned to the instance of this model, and we can use the assign the key path of that property and then the object of that profile data model. So it assigns to that, and it is printed here. So that is the timer about the timer publisher, which exposes that functionality of on each interval of 1 second it emits it emits the date. And one more is that feature publisher. The feature publisher is to executes the completion handler, and at the end of the long running task. So here is the promise, that is the closure to be executed, and 2 seconds from now. So that is thus closure will be executed 2 seconds from now and pass the value, and that is a result is a enum, and pass that a enum instance, whether it's success or a failure. If it is success, status is success with a value, and status is failure and with the failure value. So this is the void is the type of that result enum. So let's see that the feature is the promise is the closure. It takes the result enum as a input, and then the feature publisher initiate with the closure that takes the promise as an argument and returns nothing. This is the closure, promise is an argument. At the end of the task, it executes that closure. The closure input is the enum result, and this is the result enum. The type is success and failure. It has got two cases. One is success and failure. Success with the value, that type of that value, and failure type. So since it is void, it is nothing, and if it is the int, it can send the value as int. and subscriber is to receives this enum value. And since it is a void, and I've just given us this and then printing that feature is succeeded. So one more new feature is request on demand. The subscriber can limit the publisher, and the subscriber can demand the n number of values instead of getting the unlimited or finite number of values from the publisher. So subscriber has got provision to demand certain number of values from the publisher, and that can be done by this receive. And the difference between the sync and then receive is that sync is will receive all the values published by the unlimited, the finite values published by publisher, it receives all the values. So when you subscribe with the subscriber, we can the subscriber can request for the n number of values from the publisher. So this is the something is about the combine, and then operators it is provided, and we can use that combine in practice to practice with these operators. Thank you.